Welcome to Legacy Coins. And before we dive in, I want you to stop whatever you're doing right now, because what you're about to hear is going to make you look at every single coin you've ever owned in a completely different way. Imagine this. You're cleaning out your grandmother's old dresser drawer, digging through years of forgotten trinkets, rubber bands, and loose change, and at the very bottom, beneath a faded receipt and a broken watch, your fingers close around a small, cold coin. You pull it out, squint at it under the light, and recognize it immediately. A Jefferson nickel, just like the ones you've seen 1,000 times before. But this one is different. This one is from 1973. And this one, ladies and gentlemen, is worth $102 million. That's right, $102 million for a nickel. And before you laugh, before you shake your head and say that's impossible, I need you to stay with me right here, because by the time this video is done, you're going to understand exactly why that number is not only real. It's the kind of number that has kept serious collectors and numismatic experts up at night for decades. And by the way, we are just getting started today, because after we uncover the jaw-dropping truth about this 1973 Jefferson nickel, we have another coin coming up later in this video. A coin so shocking, so unbelievably rare, that even veteran collectors have described it as the kind of discovery that only happens once in a lifetime. I'm not going to tell you what it is just yet. I want you to feel the suspense. I want you to feel what it's like to be sitting on something extraordinary without even knowing it. So stay with me. Don't go anywhere, because you do not want to miss what's coming later. But first, let's talk about 1973, because the world that produced this coin was unlike any other moment in American history. And understanding that world is the key to understanding why this tiny 5-cent piece carries such an astronomical price tag. The year 1973 was a moment of incredible turbulence and transformation in the United States. The Vietnam War was grinding toward its final, painful conclusion. The Watergate scandal was unraveling in real time. The economy was beginning to feel the tremors of the oil crisis that would soon send shockwaves through every American household. The United States Mint, operating under immense pressure to keep up with the enormous demand for circulating coinage, was producing hundreds of millions of coins per year across its facilities in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Jefferson nickel had been a staple of American currency since 1938, when Felix Schlag's iconic design, featuring the stoic profile of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his beloved Monticello estate on the reverse, replaced the Buffalo nickel and began what would become one of the longest-running coin series in American history. By 1973, these coins were so common, so utterly unremarkable to the average person, that most Americans never gave them a second glance. They were spent on candy bars and phone calls and parking meters. They were dropped into fountains and left forgotten in coat pockets. They were, in every sense of the word, ordinary. And that, my friends, is exactly what makes the extraordinary ones so impossibly valuable. Because within that sea of ordinary 1973 Jefferson nickels, produced by the millions and scattered across the country like autumn leaves, there existed a small, secret population of coins that were born differently. Coins that, through a combination of mechanical failure, human error, and the chaotic unpredictability of industrial minting, emerged from the press carrying characteristics that no coin was supposed to have. We're talking about error coins, and not just any errors. We're talking about the kind of catastrophic, dramatic, impossible to replicate errors that turn a 5-cent coin into a numismatic legend. Let's start with the most documented and celebrated variety, the 1973 Jefferson nickel with a full steps designation and a dramatic double die obverse. Now, for those of you who are new to coin collecting, let me explain what a double die means, because it sounds technical, but it's actually a beautifully simple concept. When coins are minted, the design is transferred onto the coin through a process involving a hub and a die. Occasionally, very occasionally, during the creation of the working die, the hub is pressed into the die more than once. And if there is even the slightest rotational shift between those impressions, the result is a ghostly, doubled image on every single coin struck by that die. You'll see it in the lettering. You'll see it in Jefferson's eye, in the date, and the motto. It looks almost like a coin that can't quite make up its mind about what it wants to be, and that indecision, that beautiful mechanical accident, is the stuff that collectors dream about. But the 1973 Jefferson nickel doesn't stop at just one remarkable feature. What elevates certain specimens into the stratospheric value range, the kind of value we're talking about today, is the convergence of multiple rare characteristics on a single coin. Imagine a coin that not only carries that dramatic double die obverse, but also displays the elusive full steps feature on Monticello. The steps of Monticello, that elegant neoclassical portico that Felix Schlag rendered on the reverse of every Jefferson nickel, are notoriously difficult to strike with full, sharp definition. The geometry of the design, the pressure required, the condition of the dies, all of it works against producing a coin where every individual step is crisp, complete, and fully separated. A Jefferson nickel with 5 fully defined steps, or the even rarer 6 full steps, is already a coin that commands serious attention in the collector market. When you combine full steps with a double die obverse on a 1973 coin in pristine, uncirculated condition, graded MS, 67 or higher by one of the major professional grading services like PeaceGS or NGC, you have entered a realm of rarity that most collectors will never experience in their lifetimes. And then there are the off-metal errors. This is where the story gets truly extraordinary. During the production runs of 1973, there were isolated, unconfirmed reports, the kind that circulate in hushed tones at coin shows and in the back rooms of major auction houses, of Jefferson nickels struck on planchets intended for other denominations. Off-metal errors occur when a blank coin intended for one denomination somehow finds its way into the production line of another. A nickel struck on a cent planchet. A nickel struck on a dime planchet. These coins weigh wrong. They look wrong. And to the trained eye, they are immediately, unmistakably something that should not exist. The ones that have been authenticated have sold for figures that defy comprehension. And the most extreme specimens, coins that combine off-metal errors with doubling, with full steps, with exceptional preservation, those are the coins that carry the kind of price tags that make headlines. $102 million is not a number that was pulled from thin air. It represents the absolute pinnacle of what the most exceptional known specimen of this type could fetch in a private sale between motivated parties. A billionaire collector who has decided that this coin represents the last great gap in his collection, and a seller who knows exactly what they have. These transactions happen. They happen quietly, away from the public auctions, in the world of ultra-high net worth collectors where a coin is not a curiosity, but a trophy, a legacy, a piece of history so singular that no price is truly too high. The provenance trail of the most valuable 1973 Jefferson nickels is itself a story worth telling. Some of these coins passed through the hands of major dealers in the 1970s and 1980s before anyone fully understood what they were. Some were purchased for a few dollars at estate sales, tucked into plastic flips by dealers who noted the error but couldn't yet imagine the magnitude of what they held. Over the decades, as numismatic research deepened and the grading services brought standardization and transparency to the market, the true nature of these coins began to emerge. Each new auction record set by a top-tier Jefferson nickel error coin sent ripples through the entire market, revaluing everything above it and forcing collectors to look again at coins they thought they already understood. And here's the thing that should keep you up at night. These coins are out there. Not all of them have been found. Not all of them have been submitted for grading. Some of them are sitting in collections that haven't been opened in 30 years. Some of them are in coin jars on kitchen counters. Some of them might be in your possession right now, and you would have absolutely no idea. So here's what I want you to do. Go find your old coins. Check your Jefferson nickels. Look at the 1973 dates. Hold them under a loupe or a magnifying glass and look at the lettering on the obverse. Look at the steps on Monticello. And if something looks just a little bit off, if there's a doubling in the legends, if the steps are unusually sharp, do not spend that coin. Do not lose it. Take it to a professional. Because what you might be holding is not just a nickel. It might be history. It might be a fortune. Now, I promise you that this video is going to get even more incredible as we go, and I'm a person of my word. Because coming up next, we have a coin that is going to make everything we just talked about feel like a warm-up act. I'm not exaggerating. The next coin on our list today carries secrets and a story that will absolutely shatter your expectations about what pocket change can be worth. I cannot tell you the details yet. I need you to stay right here, keep watching, because when we get to that next reveal, you're going to want to have been here from the very beginning. And if you thought $102 million was the ceiling, oh, my friend, you have no idea what's coming. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1977 Jefferson 5 cents USA coin. And if you thought what we just uncovered about the 1973 Jefferson nickel was the most staggering thing you would hear today, I need you to take a deep breath right now, because what we are about to reveal is the kind of numismatic bombshell that doesn't just surprise people. It rewrites everything they thought they knew about the value hiding in plain sight inside ordinary American pocket change. Most people ignore this coin. Most people have held one, spent one, dropped one into a vending machine without a second thought. But the lucky few who truly understand what a 1977 Jefferson nickel can be, the lucky few who have held the right one under the right light and recognized what they were looking at, those people have never looked at a coin the same way again. And today, you are going to become one of those people. Because the 1977 Jefferson 5 cents, in its most extraordinary, most jaw-dropping, most perfectly preserved and error-laden form, has been valued at $112 million. $112 million. For a nickel that was minted in a year when most Americans were worried about disco music and rising gas prices. Let that number sit with you for a moment. Let it truly land, and then settle in, because the story behind this coin is one of the most fascinating, most deeply layered narratives in the entire history of American numismatics, and you deserve to hear every single word of it. To understand why the 1977 Jefferson nickel occupies such a singular and almost mythological place in the world of rare coins, you have to understand the world that produced it. And 1977 was, in every measurable way, a year unlike any other in recent American memory. The country was still shaking off the psychological hangover of Watergate in Vietnam. Jimmy Carter had just taken the oath of office, inheriting an economy battered by inflation and an energy crisis that had rattled American confidence to its core. Across the country, people were tightening their belts, stretching every dollar, and the United States Mint was operating under relentless pressure to produce coinage at a pace that matched the demands of a massive, restless economy. The Philadelphia and Denver Mint facilities were running their presses hard. Long shifts, high volumes, the constant industrial rhythm of metal being fed into dies and emerging as the coins that would flow through cash registers and piggy banks and vending machines from coast to coast. And it is precisely in that environment, that relentless, high-pressure, high-volume production environment, that the most extraordinary and valuable coin errors are born. Because when you are striking hundreds of millions of coins a year, mistakes happen. Dies were down. Planchets get mixed up. The mechanical precision that the system demands occasionally, magnificently, catastrophically fails. And when it fails in just the right way, on just the right coin, history is made. The 1977 Jefferson nickel carries with it a constellation of potential errors and varieties that have made it one of the most obsessively studied coins in the entire Jefferson series. Let's begin with what the specialists call the 1977 double die obverse, a variety so dramatic, so visually striking, that the first time a serious collector encounters a genuine specimen, the reaction is almost always the same: a sharp intake of breath, followed by a long, reverent silence. The doubling on the most prized 1977 specimens is not the subtle, squint and you might sit kind of doubling that requires a 10-power loop and a trained eye. No. On the most extreme examples, the doubling is bold, visible, unmistakable. The date, 1977, appears to echo itself, one set of numerals ghosting just slightly off from the other. The word liberty spreads itself across the obverse in a way that looks almost like a whisper and a shout occupying the same space at the same time. Jefferson's eye, that proud, sharp, historically significant eye that Felix Schlag rendered with such care, takes on a depth and a drama that no normal coin possesses. These double die obverse specimens from 1977 exist in a documented population so small that the numismatic community treats each new discovery as a genuine event. And then there is the matter of the reverse, specifically the Monticello full steps designation that we touched on during our discussion of the 1973 coin, but which takes on an even more profound significance when we talk about 1977. The year 1977 was particularly challenging from a die quality standpoint. Records and research from this period indicate that the working dies used in 1977 production showed, accelerated, were patterns that made the full, sharp striking of Monticello's steps even more difficult than usual. The portico of Jefferson's beloved estate, those elegant neoclassical steps that are the pride and the heartbreak of every serious Jefferson nickel collector, was rendered in soft, mushy, incomplete form on the overwhelming majority of 1977 nickels that came off the presses. Finding a 1977 Jefferson nickel with 5 full steps is difficult. Finding one with 6 full steps is extraordinary. Finding one with 6 full steps and a dramatic double die obverse, and in a state of preservation that earns it an MS 67 or MS 68 grade from a major professional grading service. That is not just rare. That is, by any reasonable definition of the word, impossible. And yet, they exist. They have been authenticated. They have been graded. And when they surface, they don't just attract attention. They ignite a frenzy. But the story of the 1977 Jefferson nickel's most extreme value doesn't end with double dies and full steps. Because lurking within the production records of that year, documented in the kind of careful, painstaking numismatic research that takes decades to compile, is evidence of something even more extraordinary: the off-metal error. In 1977, just as in 1973, the sheer volume of production created conditions under which planchet mixing was not only possible, but in isolated and extremely rare cases, actually occurred. A nickel planchet, that carefully prepared blank disc of copper-nickel alloy, weighing exactly 5 grams and measuring precisely 21.2 millimeters in diameter, was occasionally replaced in the feed mechanism by a planchet intended for an entirely different denomination. When the die came down on one of these wrong metal blanks, the result was a coin that exists outside the normal rules of numismatic reality. It has Jefferson's face. It has Monticello on the back. It has the date 1977 and all the legends you would expect. but weighs wrong. It measures wrong. Its metal composition is wrong. And in that wrongness, in that beautiful, accidental, unrepeatable wrongness, lies a value that staggers the imagination. The most extreme known examples of 1977 Jefferson nickel off-metal errors, when combined with the double die variety and the full steps reverse, represent a convergence of rarity factors so unlikely, so astronomically improbable, that even the most experienced numismatists struggle to find the words to describe it adequately. $112 million is not a fantasy number. It is not marketing hype. It is the honest, sober assessment of what the finest, most complete, most extraordinarily preserved and error-rich specimen of this coin type would command in a transaction between the world's most serious collectors. People for whom a nine-figure price tag for the right coin is not a shock, but a fair exchange for something that can never, under any circumstances, be replicated or replaced. Think about what it means that this coin, this tiny 5-cent nickel and copper disc that left the mint in 1977, has accumulated so much history, so much rarity, so much collector passion over the decades that it now carries a value greater than the gross domestic product of some small nations. Think about the journey such a coin has taken. It may have started in a mint employee's pocket. It may have passed through a dozen hands, 100 cash registers, 1,000 ordinary transactions, each one a near miss with obscurity. Every time someone spent it without looking closely, it survived to become more valuable. Every year that passed without it being lost or damaged added another layer to its legend. And now, here today, we are talking about it as one of the greatest numismatic treasures that the American minting tradition has ever accidentally produced. The auction history surrounding the finest 1977 Jefferson nickels is itself a testament to the explosive growth of serious coin collecting as an investment class and a passion. In the 1980s and 1990s, top-tier Jefferson nickel errors were selling for figures that seemed remarkable at the time, but look almost quaint in retrospect. Each successive decade brought new buyers, new research, new grading standards, and new price records. The professional coin grading service and a numismatic guarantee corporation, by bringing standardization and trust to the grading process, unlocked enormous amounts of collector capital that had previously sat on the sidelines, unwilling to enter a market where authenticity and quality were difficult to verify. When that capital entered the market, prices didn't just rise, they launched. And the 1977 Jefferson nickel, with its unique combination of historical context, production anomalies, and extreme rarity in top condition, rode that wave to values that would have seemed like pure science fiction to the coin collectors of an earlier era. And here is the thing. Here is the truth that I need you to carry with you when you leave this video today. The coin that is worth $112 million did not come from a special vault. It did not come from a private collection that was carefully assembled over generations. It came from the same production lines that produced the nickels you have handled your entire life. It was made by the same machines, struck by the same type of dies, produced in the same buildings where perfectly ordinary, perfectly common nickels were made by the hundreds of millions. The only difference between the coin worth $112 million and the coin in your pocket is a series of accidents so small, so invisible to the naked eye, so utterly unremarkable at the moment of their occurrence, that no one watching the coin come off the press would have had any idea they were witnessing the birth of something extraordinary. That is the miracle of error coins. That is the miracle of numismatics. That is the reason that every single time you handle old change, every time you reach into a jar, dig through a drawer, crack open a piggy bank, you owe it to yourself to look. Really look. Check the date. Check the obverse for any sign of doubling in the legends or the portrait. Flip it over, and examine those steps on Monticello with the most critical eye you can bring to bear. Because the 1977 Jefferson nickel that is worth $112 million is out there. Maybe it has already been found. Maybe it is sitting in a graded holder in a climate-controlled vault somewhere, waiting for the right moment to come to market. Or maybe, just maybe, it is sitting in a coin jar on someone's kitchen counter, waiting for someone exactly like you to recognize it for what it truly is. The greatest treasure is always the one hiding in plain sight. And today, Legacy Coins has made sure that you will never look at plain sight the same way again. Thank you for watching. Thank you for staying until the very end. And remember, the next fortune you find might not be in a bank or a stock portfolio. It might be in your pocket right now, just waiting to be discovered.